Wait lang. Can you make the Felisa Chinese translator, not English? Chinese. Oh, that's why I joined Chinese. I'm not hearing you at all. Then I check. Sandali lang sabihin ko sa kanila. Can you please reset Felisa as Chinese translator, not English? Paki-reset po yung translation. Felisa, dapat Chinese, not English. Yun yung space Cebu. Ayan. Nasa Chinese ka na, Elizabeth. Okay.
Good afternoon. Wonderful afternoon to all of us here in Asia and those out there in the other parts of the world. It's either good morning or a good evening. I would like to welcome you today to our special Saturday program, our Saturday conversation with a very special guest that you would know a little later. Today we will have the best is yet to come. And for some of us, this is very familiar. Simply, we belong to the incurable optimistics. Anything can happen. Like right now, we are beset by a super typhoon that is already at the Philippine area of responsibility. And this is something that's taken so seriously here in the Philippines, especially after the trauma that we had in the last super typhoons that had visited the country. In Cebu particularly, some people, like my own cleaning lady, had to be fetched by the husband as early as Thursday night because news was Friday was the storm coming in. So at this point of time, it's not yet here, yet people are really quite anxious over what may happen because during that time, it wasn't really a prepared event. So because of the trauma, some people, and I would not say some people, but a lot of people have taken it very seriously. Now, it is not just the storm, the storm that is really something that we all get to be somehow worried about, but other things that are happening right now all over the world. And as we said, anything can happen without any notice at all. But for us, the best is yet to come. So this afternoon, I would like to welcome those who are in the FB, as well as those who are in YouTube right now, and those who are here face-to-face with this hybrid program that we have for this Saturday conversation. We will be here for the next 1.5 hours. And I would just like to inform everyone that we will have question and answer afterwards. But before that, let us all welcome our brother here who would give us a prelude to the topic as well as introduce our very, very special speaker right now. May I call on Duncan Bai?
Thank you, Sister Ellen, and welcome everybody to this week's Saturday conversation. Yes, our guest speaker, of course, is Sister Denise, coming to us from the south of France. So I'll just introduce the topic. It's a fast-changing and highly uncertain world. Our lives can suddenly change at any time for the best or not. We strive to achieve happiness and equanimity, but challenges confront us all the time. Our response either serves us and those in our sphere well, or they create further obstacles and unhappiness. The global story is overflowing with bad news. We are seeing systems overload and breakdown. The world seems to be crumbling while so many suffer sorrows and hardships. Our collective humanity is unable to respond effectively to so many crises. We cannot seem to stem the tide. We say we want to be the change we want to see in the world, but all too often circumstances prevent us, or we just don't have the strength to do it. Does our perception of the world and of ourselves affect our experience? Or are we simply reacting conditions around us with our learned societal responses, influences? If I work on changing my perspective for the better, will this really create a better me, a better world? In the face of this, what is one to do? Is the best really yet to come? And if so, what will that best look like? So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Sister Denise to carry us through the next 45 minutes or so on the topic of is the best yet to come. Hello, Sister Denise.
Hello, Duncan. Hello. How are you?
We're very well here in Cebu, in a space.
Well, I would like to say that I'm very aware of the super typhoon that's coming. It's quite a severe one. And so I would like to actually dedicate the meditation and the things that we're talking about to those people who will find themselves really right there in the middle of that storm. And that's really our subject, because, well, anything can come suddenly and unexpectedly.
Thank
So
you. That's wonderful. Well, over to you.
So we we are very much in times of uncertainty, and when people don't really know very much about the hidden, unwritten, and mostly unperceived laws of spirituality, then there is much more uncertainty. So I would like to introduce to you a little bit about some of the laws of spirituality which enable us to have these two sentences together. One, anything can happen. It's totally uncertain and times are very unstable. And secondly, the best is yet to come. So how do those two work together? So the laws of spirituality that I want to share with you are like forces that surround us, which are hidden. We see the effects of those forces, but we can't see the forces themselves because they're invisible. They're not physical, but they act on the physical world that we live in. And this is why we call them spiritual concepts or spiritual forces. So one of them is time. We all are very aware about time, but we say we don't have time, or we don't have enough time, or there is no time. Time is actually a very important force. And most people think that we are in an evolutionary circumstance. But also, time refers to aging and deterioration. So you can't be, or maybe you can be, evolving and deteriorating at the same time. So we need to take a little look at that. What makes us evolve and what makes us deteriorate in the context of time. The other law that I would like to introduce to you is to do with the laws of karma. And most people know karma in a very simple way. It's not really a very simple concept at all, but in a simple way, you say, what goes around comes around, which means that whatever you do, the consequences of it will happen necessarily, and you will have to face them if they're bad or enjoy them if they're good. So that means we need to know what would be bad karma for us to avoid, because we don't want to pay unnecessarily, and what would be good karma so that we can clock up a good amount of spiritual income or spiritual power, which actually enables us to manage and handle and even find ourselves in favorable circumstances, even while potentially catastrophic events are going on around us. So this is actually quite interesting and quite deep to go into. Then the other element is the story. So a little bit about the story was mentioned in the introduction. And I'm sure everybody a few times a day will look at what's going on in the news, and you want to know what the stories are and what the big story is. But it can be very frustrating because you get some things which are very scary, some things which are very stupid, some things which are nothing to do with anything. And you feel that you're not being told the real story. And so there is a feeling you want to know the big picture, the big story. Can you please get information? And you can't. So if you could have access to the big story, I think that would also help a great deal. And in fact, there is a spiritual law connected with the big story. And it is the great long cycle of the history of the world and how things progress from civilization to civilization. And it also lets us know, where are we now? And one of the things that we have come to understand is that what all of us perceive as changing times, well, we see just how big the changes are that are upon us, and also what opportunities we have in times of huge dramatic change, and what are the things we have to be careful about. This also is called, and you have heard this expression from time to time, there is this expression, the time of reckoning. So this is connected with kind of meetup of the big story, the process of time, and the laws of karma. And then when everything becomes very, very intense, then people turn their attention to the higher power, the supreme being, because they want protection. They want to understand, why is this going on? Or they say, what did I do to deserve this? Or they say, what does this mean? So we have these questions to a greater or lesser extent inside of us. And so in this quite light expression of anything can happen, which of course anything can, and the best is yet to come, we may feel a little doubtful about this, because what we see is the worst is yet to come, and that doesn't look very good. So if we're looking at the expression, the best is yet to come, which is a very well-known expression. Why is it so well-known? What does it mean? Is this really something that I can anticipate, that the best is yet to come? So let me now put all of this in the context of our day-to-day regular life. And, you know, all of us got born, we went through childhood, we went to school, we had all sorts of things happen in the family, with the community, with friends. We grew up, however much we grew up. Some of us grew up to become old. And so you've seen many decades of life, and you've seen governments change, and you've seen wars come and go, financial ups and downs come and go, profit and loss, success and failure, all these ups and downs. And it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, which is quite interesting on this subject, it says that this is the way the world is, and what you need to be in the face of all these ups and downs is be in a state of equanimity. So this is like a spiritual recommendation or a mantra of some sort. A mantra actually means a piece of advice. So we need to, I think, take this piece of advice into our lives if we can. What is involved in attaining a mentality where you feel yourself in equilibrium in the midst of all this up and down? And equanimity is that you feel stable, you feel optimistic, you feel that you can handle the challenges, you are in your power. This is equanimous, so that when things go really well, it doesn't push you into a high, and when things go really badly, it doesn't push you into a low, but you can navigate these waves that go up and down in life. And this is why it is also said, a metaphor is given, that we human beings are like little boats, and we're on the ocean, which is sometimes calm, and sometimes there are big storms which can put us in great danger and we could drown. And so we have in the Philippines a big storm coming up, and I was actually in the Philippines a little bit after the Hurricane Yolanda, so I'm very aware of the incredible damage that can be done by these super typhoons, and how many lives were lost, and how many people's livelihood was destroyed. Everything that you're used to as your infrastructure in a few hours is completely gone, and you may lose relatives, friends, and so you find yourself in a very chaotic stage. And when I was there, the question people were asking me is, why did this happen? And I think that's a very important question, because behind all of our other questions, what we need is a sense of meaning. And if we can give meaning to whatever is happening and make it make sense for ourselves, that enables us to deal with it much better. And I remember at that time, I was sharing one of the teachings of Raj Yoga that I practice and study. And it seemed to really make a good impact on people's question, why did this happen? And it is a very simple sentence, and I think it can apply to us in all sorts of situations, not only really catastrophic ones, but all the small and medium-sized challenges that we face that happen suddenly and unexpectedly. And it was that this happened in order to make you experienced and in order to make you strong. So those two things are very, very positive. And when something catastrophic or very destabilizing happens, we look at the event itself and the fallout from the event visually. So we see a lot of damage. But what spirituality says is, okay, visually, this is how it looks, but that's just visually. There are other things going on that are not so visible, and we need to become aware about that. We need to actually intensify and upgrade our, what we call the third eye. So it's not that we're going to develop another eye in the middle of our forehead, but the third eye refers to the eye of the mind that is able to see hidden realities behind visible phenomena. So this is a very useful capacity to develop as well. So behind the appearances, there is something very, very important which exists to make us strong. We need to be strong, and to make us experienced, because very often we are inexperienced about something or another. We can be naive, we don't know how to manage the situation. But the progression of life gives us many experiences, and overall we become, ultimately, if we really make use of these experiences to make us experienced, we can become wise. And that is really what everybody aspires to ultimately. We don't like looking stupid, and we look stupid in times when we are really lacking in experience or we're lacking in strength. So something that is ostensibly bad and distressing and disturbing, generally, we can say generally or usually, contains these hidden elements that go to make us wise and strong and experienced and better able to manage subsequent untoward events. And when something happens to you for the first time in your life, or when you find yourself having to do something that you're doing for the first time, you do feel confused and uncertain, and you don't know if it'll work out. So you look around for people who know what they're doing in this area, and you look for their support and their expertise and their help. But sometimes there are things that happen that are so sudden, so unexpected, that you are completely in panic and shock, and you don't know what to do. This happens when there is a family crisis. It happens when there is any kind of accident. It happens when some crime has taken place that affects you directly or even indirectly. And when something of that nature happens, then psychologically, you very often go into this fight or flight or freeze mode. And so fight, you react; flight, you shut down and run away; and freeze, you just become numb. And so these are the responses that psychologists have identified when we're under very strong stress. Now, one interesting angle that spirituality tells us about these things is, hey, you are an actor and there is a movie going on, and you can be anyone you want. And there are lots of roles to play. And the circumstances actually demand that you play in a certain way to respond proactively and powerfully to the circumstances. So this is a very, very interesting practice to develop. It's to do with your sense of identity. So people are used to thinking of their identity as a single thing, and you identify as someone with a nationality, You identify with your gender, your position in society, your job, your political views, your different orientations. You're a scientist, you're an artist, all these different things go to make up your identity, but it's still, from my angle, it's still very limited and it's just one thing. But if you think, okay, I'm an actor and I can do anything that is appropriate for whatever circumstance comes along. And of course, most circumstances that most of us are involved are routine. You get up, you have breakfast, you take your shower, you go to work. It takes a long time to get there, maybe, or you work from home and it's catastrophic because there's too much else going on. But anyway, you work, you maybe stop for lunch, you carry on working, then you come home. You have to deal with what's at home, you're tired, you may bring home some of the dramas that happen at work, and you may take to work some of the dramas that happen at home, but overall it's a routine thing. And so you have your responses that are right there, ready to come into action. But when you get something sudden, anything can happen. You may win the lottery. You're not used to that. That's stressful. Somebody may be in a bad car accident or something. It's also stressful in negative ways. So either way, you are not prepared. You do not have the ways of handling it that you generally use in a day-to-day way. So this idea of being an actor is really very helpful when you come to unexpected, very challenging circumstances, because I suppose most people watch TV, movies, Netflix, Disney, all these things. So we see a lot of extreme situations and we see how people handle the extreme situations, even if it's not very practical, but you still have a lot of input in your mind of people handling extreme situations, very bad things or very good things. And so this is recorded within your being so that you actually have access to it. And you can, if you want, you can switch to another mode or another identity. All of a sudden you need to be James Bond, or you need to be somebody else. And you can actually go into a different identity which is suitable for handling the particular critical or challenging circumstance. You know, you can become a fireman, you can become a policeman, you can become a rescue person, you can become a doctor, you know, because if there is a need and there's nobody professional around, you have some idea what to do because you have all of this information that is just taken in to your consciousness just by watching movies and TV and stuff like that. So you can, if you want, deal with it. But you may say, well, that's all very well, but I need to be able to deal with these things from a much more powerful or personally empowered state. So what can I do to really make it solid and strong and kind of extend my capacities and capabilities? And also look at it in this context of the laws of spirituality that I was mentioning. So time. So what time is doing and what time is telling us is that there is deterioration on all levels and things are falling apart at an accelerating rate. And that refers to the infrastructures, that refers to your own body and mind. It refers to your family structure. It refers to the government, the financial, economic system, the natural environment. There's all sorts of deterioration going on, which is causing effects that impact us very widely, indirectly, but more and more it's coming right home and it's direct, and you need to know how to bring yourself into a state of competence and willingness to face, and you need to get personal power so that you can do that more effectively and be confident in yourself in the face of these things. So it's a skill development. The other thing is karma. And so I'm not going to go into all the details of karma, but if you look at your life and don't think about the other people around you, whether they're good or bad or what, but look at yourself and your personal track. What has been your motivation, deep inner motivation, for responding to circumstances the way you responded? Are you flexible, tolerant? Do you react? Do you take revenge? Are you generous? Really take some time to evaluate yourself, because depending on your feelings in the face of different types of challenging circumstances, and then what you do in response to those circumstances, that will let you know if, generally speaking, you are oriented towards doing good or towards doing something regrettable. Because if you're oriented towards doing something good, and this is a tendency that is regularly there, people describe you in this way and so on, then it means that you're clocking up a lot of good karmic energy or credit. And what happens with that is when you are in very challenging and very severe circumstances, this credit will come to you and it will become available to give you extra help to manage the situation. And that is a part of your karma. It's also connected with your relationship with the supreme power, the supreme being. So if you are a person who has a relationship with God, who believes in a higher being who is there to protect you and guide you and to be accessible for you, then the way in which you have related to God over your whole life, this is also kind of karma. Karma with God is also there. And it enables you to have help from that source in times of great distress and great sudden difficulties. On the other hand, if you haven't clocked up good karma, but you have been negligent and you have just done whatever you want, maybe a lot of negative things, thinking that, so what, it doesn't matter, who cares, doesn't matter anyway. No, it will put you in a situation where you have nothing to come to your rescue in terms of there's no inner strength, there's no inner backup. And there you will be in trouble. And so therefore, as soon as people start finding out about this sort of thing, it becomes quite important to look at yourself regularly and say, okay, now what I need is some more karmic credit. And so I need to be very, very careful that I do the kind of action that corresponds with my conscience. Every time you do something against your conscience, you go in loss, and your conscience becomes progressively dysfunctional. And this is a problem because your conscience is really a good guide. And when you're in sudden, unexpected, catastrophic situations, you need guidance. You say, help, what do I do? And then there's no answer comes. But if you have been careful and done good things through your life and start doing more now according to your conscience and feelings, then you will know what to do. You will have access to extra inner power, and you will get through that situation quite well. And you will feel quite grateful because you will usually have a sense that actually it was greater than me, and I don't know how I managed it, but somehow I did. But you will always feel that you had help or something like this, you see. So that's quite an important thing. Now, time of reckoning. Time of reckoning is connected with karma, absolutely. And whatever action that we have done over a long, long period of time, it creates a trend. It creates a you're either empowered or disempowered. And you also create debts where you are indebted to somebody that you did wrong to, or you are in debt to nature if you did wrong to nature, or you're in debt to God if you did wrong to God. So all of these things add up. And so you can have a certain moment, which quite often corresponds with a very critical, anything can happen moment. So you get this moment, and it also becomes a time where you're called to account. And reckoning means getting called to account. So you will be faced with your inadequacies or your weaknesses or your negative karma. It comes up for payment. And so you have to pay right then and there. And you pay with some kind of distress or pain or loss of face or something pretty difficult. And you need strength to get through that because life goes on, even at such times. On the other hand, if you have been accumulating good karma and so on, a time comes when all of a sudden everything starts working so well for you. You say, what did I do? How did this happen? So many good things are happening. It's too good to be true, or you just don't know how this happened, but everything starts working well for you. And this is also that when you are attentive to your life and your karma and your mentality, your relationship with God, nature, and people, one day you get a nice surprise. And you can understand, you may or may not understand, but it can be understood that this is because you deserve it. You've been for a long, long time handling obstacles, moving forward, striving, getting past your rejections and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden, the doors open for you and wow. And this is where we say the best is yet to come. Because karma is such a thing that you don't get always immediate results. You have the immediate, the midterm, and the long term. And an interesting analogy is when you you make an investment. Like, for example, some people, they plant trees as an investment for their grandchildren, because when those trees grow up after 30, 40, 50 years, then they have mature wood, and this is of great value. So you are planting seeds which are growing into trees, but you're not going to reap the harvest of the good seeds you have planted right away, because you won't get very much. If you defer your benefit and do not take it, just keep investing into your life and into your aims and purpose of life. Keep investing, and then all of a sudden this investment reaches a stage of maturity, and then there you are surrounded by the fruits of all your life's work, and there it is for you to enjoy, for you to share with other people, for you to enable others to also enjoy. And there you feel, I think in a really good way, you feel the meaning of success. Because success should not be just a burst and a splash, and then everything goes back to what it was. Success, I think, is that you work for it gradually over a long period of time, and all of a sudden, there it is. And it makes your life, and it makes the life of those around you. So I think this is what we are looking at when we say anything can happen, which we know it can, and the best is yet to come, in the sense that all sorts of good things happen to those who wait, bide your time, don't expect rewards, don't expect the consequences of your good action. Allow them to mature and let them come to you when they're good and ready, because that mature, ripe fruit is the tasty one. And so this is what it's about. So I think I will stop there, and let's see if we have any questions, anything that anyone would like to know a little bit more about, and then we'll have a meditation together at the end of that. Thank you so much. So I think that there will be some questions. You can put them in the chat box of the Zoom, and we'll see what you have in mind.
Okay. Denise, thank you very much for the wonderful discussion. This is your time. Now, we just like to take a break, just for a minute. So we'll proceed right now with the questions. Okay. We will proceed with our break for a while.
I'm sorry, but we can't hear you well.
I'm sorry for that. Okay, now we would like to have a certain break right now, and I would wish that we can have the golden drops in view already, just for us to have this now.
Second audiovisual interlude.
thank you for the golden drops. And at this point, I would wish to get the questions, and we would have our moderator right now. I would like to ask Sister Tensi here to moderate the question and answer. Miss Tensi?
Thank you very much, Sister Ellen. Good afternoon, Sister Denise.
Good afternoon.
A question, Sir Duncan? Sister, one thing that I gleaned from your talk is we really have to be aware of what's going on within us and around us. And if we are conscious about what goes on, then we give ourselves the chance and the possibility to work at our karma, the good karma. Of course, sometimes we slip, and sometimes too we slip more often than we have to, but it really is a consciousness of our relationship with ourselves and with the Supreme Being that matters. Here's one question. What does one need to do to achieve a state of equanimity?
Well, there are some secrets that I can let you know. And one of them is that when things go really, really well for you, do not take in and take on something that can make you feel arrogant about your success, but accept it graciously, but do not allow it to make you puffed up. Somehow don't let it make you feel that, okay, I am the special, the most great, and everybody else is nothing special. And if you do that, it will give you a special power so that when the tables are turned and things don't go well, you will be able to be equally gracious and dispassionate about it. And this is a very useful tip. Right? And then you can gradually achieve that equanimity by taking care of not allowing the good to make you, make you think too highly of yourself. Then when the bad comes, you also won't think too badly of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Thank you, Sister. You reminded me of it wasn't just an incident. It was actually a happening in one of my friends' lives. And things were really upward for him. Everything was fine until somebody said, and he was really happy about what was happening in his life. And things changed when someone reminded him, hey, things are getting really, really good for you. Now be prepared for something negative very soon. Oh, that really swept him off his feet. And he said, that made me unhappy, Tensi. I said, never mind. Take it as one of those things that can happen. But surely things will not always be low tide for you. There will always be a rising somewhere. Because really, life is like that, isn't it, sister? It
is. And, if somebody tells you something that puts you off your feet, then that's a good sign that you haven't achieved your inner stability, because when somebody says something out of nowhere, it's designed to make you unstable. But then you have to respond to that by remaining stable, because they're just saying something. And if you take it as fact, what are you doing? There's nothing factual about it. It's a threat. And so you need to be also able to manage threats, empty threats. I mean, it is true, things are up and down, but if somebody reminds you of it, do not give your power away to that person and make yourself feel unnecessarily upset, because that's the game. That's what they were trying to do. And you need to understand the game and be a bit wise.
I'll take that positively, sister. It's a reminder, isn't it?
Yes.
Here's another one. How far have wrong actions now in our confluence age, in spite of a difference in status, an impact on our roles from the Copper Age onwards?
Well, this is very specific question regarding people who are studying the material about the different ages and so on. But here we have many people who are with us who do not have that background. But let me say simply that whatever is happening to us now is an accumulated consequence of things that we may have done over many, many lives. And whatever is our circumstance at the present time, there's no guarantee that it will stay like that. And there is a very interesting statement in the Bhagavad Gita which speaks to that. And it says that nothing will remain the same indefinitely. Some things may remain the same for a long, long time, but they will not remain like that forever. So this is something that asks us to be patient, and also makes us attentive that, you know, if things are going badly, it's not going to carry on like that forever. And the same way, if things are going well, it's not going to carry on like that forever, because things have a way of deteriorating due to time and negative karma. And things will go well when you're attentive on your consciousness, on your relationship with people, on your karma, on your respect and regard for the world and nature and the divine and yourself, you know. So all of these, this is all a calculation. So if you pay attention to it, you can figure out how you're going. But if you don't pay attention, it's all too chaotic.
Yes, we really have to be conscious of what's going on in us and around us, sister. Here's another question, sister. What could be next in the drama, in this drama of our lives right now? For example, vis-a-vis COVID.
COVID, well, COVID's not going to go away. It seems to have quite a good time with humanity these days. Maybe other ones that come along. You know, we are in a time when people's health is impacted, and this is also connected with negative karma. And so you do need to take care of yourself. Preventive action is good. You have to have enough rest. You have to have good quality food. You have to be careful of how you manage stress. Look after your mind, because if you look after your mind well, chances are that your body will be very cooperative with you, even when there's an invasion of a virus or an infection or something like that.
Thank you, sister. What about artificial intelligence?
Well, it's artificial, isn't it?
True.
So, you know, I do think about artificial intelligence because it's all the rage at the moment and people are assuming all sorts of things. But, you know, if I would be a very smart robot and I see the human beings, their systems and values and everything, and then, you know, it would be quite forgiven for saying, well, I think all these people are doing so many bad things, we better have the death sentence for everybody and they can just blow the world up. I mean, they could, that would be quite smart if you were a robot, but very stupid if you had real intelligence. So, you know, artificial intelligence makes people, like, it wows people, but at the same time, there is something different between what a super computer can do, which is what artificial intelligence is, and a soul, you see, because it doesn't matter how good your robot is, it doesn't have a soul. It can't get a soul.
That we have to remember. Keep in mind all the time. Sister, for a long time, we were aware of, you know, the fact that wars have been going on all over the world, one at a time, and now they're coming to a head. This war happening almost always. How do we cope with that, sister?
Well, I think at any given time, there's 30, 40 wars going on and have been for the last many centuries. And we are coping or not coping, but, you know, there's war, there's conflict, not just what people call wars. You know, there's a war between men and women, there's a war between humanity and nature, there's a war between the rich and the poor, there's a war between, you know, the industrial and the non-industrial countries, there's wars between religions, wars between different political viewpoints. So we are in a world of conflict. And so what you need to do is look at the conflict that's going on inside your own head and in your family and in your community, and make yourself strong and flexible and attentive to your own karma, because you can't do anything about what other people are feeling and thinking and doing, really. To some extent you can, but mostly your area of jurisdiction is yourself. And if you make yourself very integrated in a good state of equilibrium, have your personal power, you can be a very good influence for stability. This is, I think, important to do, really focus on what the individual can do and do it.
Sister, you just told us that we have to take care of our own inner space.
Yes.
What's a good attitude to keep during illness and physical pain?
It depends how intense it is, and it depends if it's temporary or permanent or chronic. You know, there's all these variables that are there. But, you know, it's another of these, anything can happen. You know, all of a sudden you go for a routine check to the doctor and he says, by the way, you have 3 weeks to live. You've got this, and this. And so you get a big shock. And then you have to get ready for leaving your body, or you have to do something about your lifestyle to make sure that you can extend it. And there are a lot of options that you have, but it's a very good test of your personal stability, of your how much you're attached and dependent on your body. Because you see, spirituality tells us, look, you're an immortal soul, so your body isn't forever, and you have to die of something. You can't just die just like that. You know, very few people just close their eyes and off they go. Mostly something happens to do that. So that means you need to do a lot of coming to terms with who you are And when you're in sickness, you have to be dependent on people to help you and care for you. So you have to be nice to them. And they will take care of you well if you have been already nice to them and continue to be. When you're dealing with pain, you're on your own. And okay, you may have drugs, but the drugs don't always work. And you have to practice to allow pain to talk to you. Pain is a great teacher. And if you can't handle pain, it will sit on top of you until you learn something that it has to inform you about somehow. So these are circumstances that you can feel very bad about, or they're circumstances that you can take a great deal of personal profit and benefit from. But it's up to you. You have choice.
Sister, again, you reminded us of equanimity. We should develop that through the years. We practice. We have to practice. And what is the boldness of spirituality to lead on the best will come?
I think you have to realize the difference between yourself, your heart, your soul, your being, and all of the influences that seek to condition you and form you and mold you and make you the way everybody else is. And then I think it's one of those cases where to thine own self be true comes up, you know. You must be true to yourself. People want to be authentic and real, but it takes courage because the people around you will try and stop you, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Because if you just do what everybody else wants, you're never going to live. And then you'll die without having lived, and that's a waste of time, you know. So I think you need to really value yourself and give yourself a chance.
Sister, in the midst of, the fact that life is very fast. We're actually racing even against ourselves. Thank you for reminding us to keep close to ourselves, take stock of what we do, think in terms of karma, because we have to have a relationship with ourselves and the world around us, especially now that we said earlier, we're bombarded with artificial intelligence and the fear of what is not yet there.
It's all there, really. It's just we don't yet know about it. But I think, take it easy, be optimistic, be light, you're an immortal being, and you can race along with the other racing people, or you can just watch them fly by meaninglessly. You have a lot more possibility to determine how you are in your mind and what's going on around you. You don't have to be sucked into it and under its influence day and night. It will come and invade your consciousness from time to time, but there's many, many opportunities to take time out and return to yourself and be the watchful observer, dispassionate and attentive on the self. I think that's a very good thing.
Oh, sister, yes, we really have to get hold of ourselves in time. You have a question, Duncan?
Sorry, I'll just be a voice in the background, but I just had one ultimate question, which is a kind of it's a paradigm from the atheists in the world that will say, you know, this idea of an old man in the sky, and you know, it's just a construct that's come through the power struggles of religions, and so the question is, you know, how can we address that denial of an oversoul, of a supreme soul, when the idea of a God or God is so mixed up in all the negative things that invade, particularly, you know, materialist cultures these days.
I think the issue is that the description of God that is available through the different religions at the present time is not something that attracts people who are not attracted by it. I mean, there are people who are very deeply in their faith of a terrifying God, or there's people who believe in a loving God. There's not much clear information available about God. And so people just decide. I think what the atheists are against is the God as an invention of humanity or different people. And I think that, you know, there's a quite a well-known statement from Teilhard de Chardin, who's a theological philosopher, who said only God can describe himself. And the description doesn't come up as an old man in the sky with thunderbolts. It's something quite different, but then people don't know about it. So to address it, I would say, if you know God, if you have a good relation with God, then resonate with that, and your resonance will create an impact in the atmosphere on a very subtle level. But that is, I think, a very, very good way to address it.
Thank you very much, sister. Sister, we're now ready for meditation.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sister.
Thank you so much. So take a few moments to be inside yourself. Give yourself a little time to let all the things around you fade away. And just come into a feeling about your own self. As you go deep inside, you come to a different atmosphere. It is a charged atmosphere with a very subtle light. All the sights and sounds around you are not your focus of attention. Your attention is on yourself, deep within. Take time to go inside and find the real you deep inside. Not the constructed you of your life's impacts, but something else, something extraordinary, beautiful. You are, in fact, a being of light, loving, in your power, wise, peaceful. You are at peace with whatever's going on. Because you're in contact with something greater, deeper, that's behind that. You are alive in a very special way. You're in touch with who you are. You detach from the social world and come into a dimension of light, inner light. A world of quiet, stillness. You touch a very sweet silence that is far away from the crazy world. But in so many ways, it is much more real, deep. By going inside, you have access to that energy of light. And going deep into that world of light, you become aware of the source, the power, the energy of the Supreme Being. You open up your soul and let that energy fill you. A beautiful combination of love and power, sweetness and wisdom, light and deep bliss. This connection is only you and that one in a world of light. Everything else is just cinema. Let yourself hold still and steady. Just quietly absorbing the light, the energy. Deep happiness. And let yourself be completely yourself. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing us back to a closer and more intimate relationship with the One, which is culminated by love, power, sweetness, and bliss. Thank you very much for bringing us together with our friends, with our co-travelers, and bringing us into a higher level of understanding. Thank you everyone too for being there. I was wondering if we could have a photo. Is it okay for some to just put on their cameras so we can have over 80 souls with us today, and some of course are in groups. So thank you everyone. And we have China with us, and I think there are a number from Europe. There are, of course, plenty from the Philippines here too. And to all of you, thank you so much for being with us. We hope that we can have Sister Denise once again. Thank you for this special mission of Sister Denise to bring us all together with a lot of love and with a lot of, power to be able to realize more and more what spirituality is all about. So once again, thank you very much, Sister Denise. Thank you for Felice Choi here, who is our translator. Thank you for everyone, Sister Maggie, of course, and all of you there right now. Thank you, and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. And once again to Sister Denise, our resource speaker for today. Thank you to Sister Maggie once again for bringing us around the globe, to Felisa Choi, our translator from China. And for all of us who joined, the best is yet to come at Zoom, FB, and face-to-face here at Inner Space. Thank you, thank you, thank you.